it's Wes.
And Shonda.
And welcome to DinkLife.
We are here to finally wrap up our Japan travel series and talk about our second and last day at Tokyo DisneySea. This was also the last full day that we were in Japan before we traveled home. So a little bit sad.
Yeah.
Really. And we're not going to do a video on our travels home just because we feel like we pretty much covered everything.
Yeah, and it's not super interesting.
Yeah, nothing too exciting. We talked about the bus and the Wi-Fi and all that.
Yeah, so we had some plane issues, but I mean, that's like a common thing in 2023.
Exactly. So we're basically just here to talk about our second day at Tokyo DisneySea. And the reason that we did two separate videos on this is because we did completely different things on our second day. Yeah. I don't think there were hardly any repeats.
No.
Really just one
didn't
ride.
Really
I think we rode twice. That was it.
Yeah.
So the first thing that we should tell you, which I think we mentioned when we did our Tokyo Disneyland video, is that there is just no reason to rope drop DisneySea.
The line's insane.
Yeah.
They line up like hours before.
I would have to say that unless you're planning to be there at 6 a.m., really, to be at the very front of the line, if there's just something you must ride and you're not willing to pay for an express pass.
Yeah, and maybe you're getting a show, I don't know, but we didn't have any luck on shows.
Yeah, so I mean, we just decided our second day, instead of standing in that line for an hour and still not getting anything for it. I mean, we didn't get on anything any sooner or earlier.
No.
Because everybody there rope drops. It's not like here in the States.
Yeah.
So we went to Ikspiari and just grabbed some breakfast and some coffee and kind of took our time.
Yeah.
We didn't rush that morning, and I gotta tell you, it was much nicer.
Oh, yeah.
Than standing in the crowd of people for rope drops.
Yeah.
So it's just our recommendation. If you're a rope dropper and you really want to try it, go ahead. But I mean to say, at Tokyo Disneyland, yes. At DisneySea's, not so much.
Also, just be warned when you go to Ikspiari, there's not a lot for breakfast really there.
There isn't, and there's not a lot open in the morning. I mean, we really had to search high and low for a place that we could just grab some coffee.
Probably stay, if you're staying at one of the hotels, get it at the hotel. Don't even go over there. There's hardly anything there.
If we had known that.
Yeah, we didn't know that, but yeah, it's a good point. Just don't go there really for breakfast. There's really only like 2 places in there.
Right.
And they don't have a ton.
No, I think we had like a pastry. And
it was a good coffee and pastry, but it was nothing like... It wasn't worth going there. We should have just stayed at the hotel.
Yeah. So we finally headed over to DisneySea's about 11. We let them get open and everybody get in. And then we headed over there about 11. And the first thing we did when we got in this time was try to get a spot for the night show. So unlike here with the fireworks and the nighttime shows, you need to get a reservation unless you want to be standing somewhere way out on the outskirts and you can't really see.
Yep.
Because again, like we talked about with the parades, they sit, which is fantastic. So you basically, just like with the other shows, you get on the app, you request to get a spot for the evening show, and then it's just a crapshoot. It's a lottery. Thank God, this was the one thing we lucked out on. Yeah. And we were able to get a seat, and it was actually really good. Yeah. Like, we were right in front of the lagoon, probably, I think, what were we, X?
We were pretty far back, but they weren't bad seats.
They go by alphabetic numbers, so it was like A through D, and then they seat whatever. But anyway, we were like X or U or something. Yeah. So it wasn't really terrible. I mean, we were only like 26 or 27 rows back, but it was so worth it. And I mean to tell you, of all the Disneys we've been to, it might have been one of the best nighttime shows we've seen.
Yeah, it was an amazing show.
I mean, I had tears running down my face. But
they blew Epcot's nighttime shows away. And even the one in California.
Well, that's not entirely true. You never saw the original Epcot show with the globe in the middle. That thing made me sob like a baby. But I will say, any of the shows that are happening right now, they have got the best show, for sure. So if you can get in that lottery and you can get a seat for that show, it's the one thing you should do. So after that, we also decided to buy an express pass for Soaring. Yeah. Their version of Soaring. Like, even though we had been on it, we were like, we want to see it, see if there's any differences, And we bought that pass at like noon. And
Yeah.
I think our time to come back was like park closing.
Yeah, it was like almost the last ride of the day.
Yeah, it was insane.
It was
Like,
almost already sold out.
Yeah, it was crazy. So if you want to get on Soaring, I would buy my express pass like as early in the day as humanly possible for that one. And we'll talk about that ride later too.
Yep.
So after that, we really kind of just wandered around and tried to get to parts of the park that we hadn't been to before.
Yeah, just to see everything.
So we got on the boat, and those boats, like we had said earlier, there's like 4 stations for them, and they all go to different ports.
Yep.
So we got on the boat toward the front, and we went all the way back to the back near Indiana Jones and near, it's like the Morocco, Aladdin, Sinbad area.
Yep.
Because we really didn't spend much time there the first day, so we just wanted to check it out.
We only got to see it at nighttime, really.
Yeah, and see what we had missed. Wes decided he wanted to go see a show. I just really wasn't sort of in the mood.
Yeah, well, and they are all in Japanese.
Yeah,
so, yeah.
I just wasn't in the mood to wait in line, and then so he went. And while he was in the show, I rode the carousel, which is a double-decker carousel, which was pretty cool. And then I just kind of like sat. There's a huge fountain in the middle. I kind of just sat and people watched.
Yeah. It's
Wes
real pretty right there.
Can tell you about the show.
Yeah, the show was I think it was called Aladdin 4D. It was a cool show. It had a cool pre-show outside, or before you go in, there's a pre-show where everybody kind of stands around the center area. And then you move inside, and the show was really cool. It had 2 live actors in it, and then they're kind of on the floor below, and there's a 3D screen above them. And the actors, again, like everything we saw in Japan, they were like 120%. Like, I mean, all in on it. So yeah, it was kind of like a little bit of a magic show on the bottom with the 4D thing, kind of Aladdin reaching down. It was cute though. I didn't understand a word of it, but I mean, it was cool just to see the tech and everything.
Yeah. So then when Wes got out of there, we decided to, they have magic carpets there, same as they do here in Aladdin Land. But man, it's so cute over there. Like, it's not a lot of like small children, or at least there weren't at the time period we went.
No, yeah.
So, we got in line for these magic carpets, and it was mostly adults.
Yeah.
And
mostly
they
college
just
students.
enjoy everything.
Yeah.
I mean, they don't care. Like over here, if you saw college students getting on that, they'd look bored. They'd be like, I'm not wasting my time in line for this ride. It's so stupid, blah, blah, blah. But we got on behind, or were we in front? I don't remember.
We were in control of the car.
Oh, so we were in front. And behind us were 2 Japanese girls.
Yeah.
And they looked to be about college age or early 20s. Oh my God, they made me laugh so hard. They were screaming every time the carpet dropped and went up. And they were giggling and just having the best time.
Yeah. And everybody was like that. All of them, yeah.
And it just makes you feel good about being there too. The vibe there is so much different than it is here, and especially here since COVID. I mean, not to knock Disney.
Yeah.
We love Disney.
Yeah.
But it just seems like people have gotten progressively angrier at the parks here.
Yeah.
And
I never see anybody having this much fun on just a magic carpet ride. Just a spinning Dumbo ride.
Right. And like, everybody there just enjoys themselves, and nobody's like, nagging at other people or cutting in line or yelling at cast members. I mean, it's so much nicer.
Yeah.
And it's just nice to see people enjoy themselves like that, because then it makes you enjoy yourself. So, I just kind of wish the culture over here were a little bit different and that COVID hadn't affected us so much, because it's just so nice to see.
Yeah.
But anyway, so after that, we had a pretty late lunch but very early dinner reservation.
Yeah.
I want to say it was around 2:00 or so.
Yeah, it was pretty early.
And again, I cannot stress enough, when your month out hits, if you want to eat at a restaurant that requires reservations in those parks, you must make that reservation that day or you will not get it. It's just like here. And again, it's not 30 days out, it's a month before. So, if there's 30 days in the month or 31 days in the month or 28 days, the timing will be off, is all. It's unlike here where it's just 60 days out to the day. So we made a reservation at this place called Magellan's. It had rave reviews. Everything we watched said, you have to go here. This place is amazing. And you can tell by the name of the restaurant, it's kind of Explorer themed.
Yeah.
And it has a gigantic globe in the center.
It's really fancy.
It is. And you walk in on a second floor, actually. You enter on the second floor, and then you go downstairs to eat.
Yep.
Which is really kind of cool. and it's very fancy. I mean, it's like the Grand Floridian fancy.
Yeah.
It was not as expensive, though, as the Grand Floridian. I mean, it was pricey, don't get me wrong. It was probably, what, $60 or $70 a person? I would say.
Yeah. Well, yes.
With the conversion rate.
With the conversion after, it actually only came out like I think originally it was whatever it would have been like 60, like if you thought in your head. But the conversion rate, you would have thought our meal would have been about $150 or so. But once it got converted down, it was only like $105.
Oh, for both of us.
Yeah.
Yeah, and again, the great thing about that is no tipping, right? So the meal was the meal. And it's like it's not exactly a prefix, but it's like you pay a certain amount, and there are like 3 different tiers, right? So like on this tier,
60.
you get these selections. At this higher tier, you might get like a better cut of meat or another entree or something. You know what I mean? Like we picked the least expensive because it was lunchtime, first of all.
Yeah.
Everything we wanted was in the menu that we chose. So just so you know, so then you pick one appetizer. There are like 3 to choose from.
Yep. Same
with the entree. You pick one entree and you pick one dessert.
Yeah.
And we both picked something different. Everything was different.
Yep.
My entree was like, it was just called hors d'oeuvres.
Yeah.
And it was like 4 or 5 little amuse-bouches, like bite-sized pieces. And thankfully, I don't know what was in any of it. Because I'm less likely to eat it if I know what I'm eating.
Yeah.
But everything I ate was delicious, and we do have pictures of our food.
Yeah. And I had a seafood style like appetizer, which was really good too.
Yeah. Oh, we both did get soup, because I think that just comes with it.
Yeah, there was a soup too, yeah.
Again, I don't even know what it was. It was cold.
Yeah.
So maybe it was like a vichyssoise or a...
Yeah. Oh, and the one thing that was weird is, though, they bring you rolls, and the only thing you actually ask to pay extra for is if you want extra
butter, right?
Yeah.
So you get like 1 pat of butter, and you have to split it between... And it has like Mickey stamped in it. It was very cute.
Yeah.
So did the rolls, actually.
Yeah.
But strangely, that's the thing you pay extra for if you need more butter.
Yep.
People must be asking for a lot of extra butter there.
Yeah.
But... yeah, so rolls and soup just came to everybody. But the soup was delicious.
Yeah, soup was good.
Despite being a cold soup, which, we're not really used to here in the States, I thought it was very good. So then our entrees came, and I have forgotten, we did both order the same entree.
Yeah.
We both had like breaded pork.
Breaded pork chuck, yeah.
Yeah. It was boneless.
Yep.
And then on the side were like some pureed carrots, which originally I thought were sweet potatoes. They were delicious. I mean, it doesn't matter.
They were really good.
And then there was like a little piece of zucchini and a couple of other things, and it was in this really delicious gravy. And then for dessert, I had like, it sort of resembled a millefeuille. It was like a stacked cake, but it wasn't cakey. You know what I mean? Like it was like pudding and like wafers, and it was delicious though and beautiful. I mean, everything just looked beautiful when it came to the table.
Yeah.
And for dessert,
and I had a creme brulee, and it was really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think we each did have an alcoholic beverage, so that added a little bit.
Yeah, I had a beer.
Yeah, and I think I had like a wine spritzer or something.
Yep. And it's a slow meal, just so you know. I think we were there for over an hour.
Yeah, we were, but it was totally worth it. It was so relaxing. The service was wonderful. And again, it feels so weird not to tip. You know, when you get that good of service, but...
And if you're there, look on the bottom floor, look around, there's like a hidden wine cellar, too, down there.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Like, as you're walking to the bathrooms, it's really kind of cool.
Yep.
You can be seated in there. We didn't get lucky enough for that, but it's just cool to look at.
Yeah.
So then after that, we had some cash, like Japanese yen, left to spend.
Yeah, that we needed to get rid of.
And we also, I think we covered this earlier... Like the souvenirs there, we don't usually buy a bunch of souvenirs when we're on vacation, but for some reason, the souvenirs there were just so much cooler than like anything we could get our hands on here. So we just wanted to make sure that we picked up stuff we knew we couldn't get back here.
The stuff was way cooler there. Yeah.
It was. So we did do a bunch of shopping. We spent most of our money. Went and got a few more gachapans, which is like our thing now, you know. if we ever go back to Japan, watch out because...
Yeah, and I think a lot of their merch there is way better than ours because they're just so into collectibles and stuff there.
Yeah,
and everything's is like a series and a set, and you can get like the whole all the vehicles in the park, every ride vehicle in the park, like miniatures of them. It was just really cool. They had really cool toys.
It is. It's. I think we may have mentioned this earlier, but like we ended up buying. It was probably 4 or 5 little boxes of Haunted Mansion stuff.
Yeah.
Like they had the mansion, and then they had the Doom buggies, and then they had the Gravedigger, and you know it's like.
And they loved little miniatures there.
And we just were like, well, we gotta have them all. I mean, we can't just buy one, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you can't just have one Haunted Mansion thing. So we bought the whole set. You know, amongst other things. But yeah, so we ended up spending the rest of our cash because can't take it with you. So, you know, we did quite a bit of shopping that afternoon.
Yeah, and then we also did go back to Ikspiari, even though I keep hacking that up.
Ikspiari.
Ikspiari. We went back there, and then we had a bunch of change, probably like $20, $30 and change. So we just went back there and just blew it all on Gashapan.
Surprise.
Just to get rid of all the... And that was like the best way to get rid of like down to every little last cent you had.
Right. Yeah, we did take a break from the park in the afternoon because we knew we were going to be there for the nighttime show, so we were going to be there through till closing. So we just kind of went back to the room.
And also watch our Suica Cards. We were trying to dump too, just buying beverages as much as we could that day too, just to empty everything out.
Yeah, exactly. Because again, if you buy a welcome Suica Card, which is, you know, for people who don't live there, you cannot get your money back. Whereas if you just buy a regular Suica Card, you can get your money back at the end. So just be cognizant of that. If you've put a ton of money on your Suica Card, you might want to be able to get it back.
Yeah.
So we just went back to the room. We relaxed for a little bit, did some packing, you know, got ready. And then we probably headed back there about 5 or 6, I would say.
Yep.
And then we finally did get to ride Soaring.
Yeah.
I will say... the pre-show for that Soaring, now, I mean...
it's the best one.
Yeah, mind you, we have not been to the China parks yet, but, man...
it's really high-tech.
It was worth it just for the pre-show alone.
Yeah.
I mean, Soaring wasn't any different.
Yeah.
It was the same Soaring that's in Orlando right now.
Yeah, with that, but then you fly over Tokyo at the end. That was the coolest part of it.
Yeah, but the cool thing, too, again, just like with the Magic Carpets, like, the lady that sat next to me had never ridden it before. She was this little Japanese lady. And she, the whole time, she's like, oh!
Oh, yeah, every time it dips, they scream.
Or, like, when the smells come, they're just, like, fascinated.
Yeah.
Which you just don't see over here. It's just so nice to see people so excited about riding a ride, you know?
Yep.
And it makes you feel good about it, too. So, definitely, even if you've been on the Soarings over here, I would say get that one just for the pre-show because it is 100% worth it. So by the time we got out of there, it was nearly time for us to queue up for the nighttime show. And they do, I mean, I think, what were we, about an hour before the show started, maybe?
Yes.
Roughly.
Yeah.
I mean, and they don't, it's not like here, right? Like, they don't let you line up. You can't line up like 3 hours before. Like, they've got stanchions and ropes and all this other stuff, and they don't put it out until it's time. And people don't line up until it's time. I mean, they just don't do that over there. Like, the rules are the rules, and, you know, it's not time to line up, so they don't line up, which is fantastic. It's so much nicer, because then you're not having to, like, waste 3 hours of your day staking out a spot, you know? So we got there, they seat people in groups, it's all very orderly, there's no pushing and shoving and carrying on.
Yeah, they just call people by groups. Yep, you sit down.
Yeah, it's like A through D, you go and sit, then, you know, E through G,
you and they don't pack you in either, everybody just kind of sits in their spot.
They've got,
you got
things marked off on the pavement, like what your section is, and then they've got little numbers for everybody to sit their little butts on. And that's it. And everybody just stays in their spot. You don't get to take strollers in there. You have to leave the strollers on the outside.
Yep.
It's just nice, you know? It's so much more orderly and civilized.
Yeah. And then the show was great.
Oh, please. I mean, I think I sobbed through, it was at least a half an hour long, I would say.
Yeah.
There was fireworks and
boats it's a half hour long,
dancing and lasers. And, I mean,
and
just
even the volcano erupts and fire blows out the top.
Yeah, and there's projections on all of the buildings around you. And I mean, it's just like a whole 360 experience. A lot of the songs were in English.
Yeah,
So,
and another thing that's really cool too is while they're doing the projections on the buildings, all those rooms that they're doing it on are actually hotel rooms, and all those people are sitting up in their hotel rooms watching the show too.
with the lights out.
Yeah, with the lights out.
Yeah, they're very. I don't know if they're told to do that.
I think it cuts the lights to the room or something weird like that. Yeah, because none of the lights were on in any of the hotel rooms.
Yeah,
that were on that exterior side.
Mm-hmm. And then the show is over at park closing. And what I will say, and I think I said this before, is over there, they don't do like here. Like, you don't get to get in line at 9:59 when the park closes at 10. When the park closes at 10 there, the park closes at 10.
Yeah, they don't let any more people in lines and anything.
No, I think they stopped letting people line up at like 9:30, 9:15.
Yeah. And we ended up just starting to walk out, and it was pretty an amazing experience walking out of that place. Yeah,
in fact, everybody there... So again, unlike here, right, where everybody just turns and hightails it out, right, and you're like smashed in a crowd of people trying to get out.
Yeah.
I would say easily half the people
No, there's nothing like that. But it was super cool. Just like some of them, everybody's just going and like
they had their flashlight, like their flashlights on their lights turned on, like lighters, and everybody was just standing there waving.
And the people in the hotel rooms were doing it.
Oh my God, my heart! Like, I mean, both of us were just walking out of there like crying, and like. It was a good cry, right? It was like a happy magical cry. It was like all of the times we've been to things here lately where we maybe haven't felt like it was so magical at Disney World.
No.
That gave us back the feeling of like, this is what Disney is supposed to be like, right?
Yeah.
Nobody was like in a huge hurry. Everybody was just enjoying themselves, like getting out of there, and like we just kind of took our time and looked around and watched people celebrating, and like. When we got back to the monorail, we got right on.
It was cool because a lot of people that globe outside too were standing around it and just had bubble guns.
Yeah, it was really like I'm getting choked up just talking about it now, but like it really put the magic for us back into Disney that we had kind of lost a little bit here.
I wouldn't say Florida quite has the magic that place has.
Yes,
just because of the crowds there.
Yeah, it's the people. I mean, the people are just not as nice, and they're not enjoying themselves, which takes away from your enjoyment.
Yep.
When you see somebody screaming at their kid or yelling at a cast member or just like, I hate to use this phrase, but I can't think of anything better, just like, for lack of a general term, being a Karen, it takes away from your enjoyment of what's happening, and it's just not like that over there.
No. Everybody's into it.
Is so happy to be there and just joyous and like it's vacation. Enjoy yourself.
Yeah.
You know?
And none of them are really in a rush to leave. They're just kind of enjoying it and just slowly leaving the place.
They're trickling out.
The parks here is just like a mat. It's not even comfortable.
People trying to kill each other to get on the ferry and shoving you into the monorail and cussing and screaming and. It's just a whole different vibe here.
Yeah.
Or there, I should say. Now, we are going back here in a few weeks to do Halloween, so it'll be interesting just to see if it's kind of the same as we remember it from last year or if anything has changed. But, man, this was just like a magical experience, and I wouldn't trade it for anything, and it was worth every penny we spent.
Oh, yeah.
And I would do it again in a heartbeat. I mean, it for me is the best Disney park that we've been to. Just all around for everything that happened.
Yeah.
You know, how the cast members acted, the way the patrons in the park acted, the rides, the cleanliness, just all of it was, even though it was crowded, it was still super magical.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we just went back to the hotel and we couldn't have ended our vacation any better. Like, we could not have asked for a better last day in Tokyo. So, I mean, that was it. That sort of wraps up our 12 days in Japan. And, again, this is just what we did. There are a million things to do over there.
Yeah.
I will say, though, if you're a Disney head,
it's well worth going.
Yeah, 100%. So that's it. That's it for our trip to Japan. Hopefully we'll be able to get back there sometime again soon. And just remember, as always, whatever you decide to do, just get out there and do it.